So the unofficial motto of this podcast, actually it might be the official motto of this podcast, is you can't tell me what to do. There's a reason for that. Today's podcast addresses that reason. It's because only God can tell me what to do, Josh.
As you were going through that introduction, I was like, you, sir, are giving us a lot more credit than we probably deserve. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and Caleb, to this episode of Cross-Checking. We're so happy that you're all here.
Caleb feels like the least likely of your brothers to actually listen to any of these episodes.
You're correct, but don't you also have a brother, Caleb?
No, I don't.
Oh.
No.
Well,
I don't know where
there's
you got that
a member of my congregation named Caleb, and I think he listens to these, so I just made a face at the camera, but I think he listens, not watches, so that was pointless.
I shrugged, so yeah.
In any case,
anyway, yeah.
I'm Josh Laborious. I'm a pastor here southeast of Houston in Friendswood, Texas at Hope Lutheran Church, and the hairy one with the more melodious voice is Ben Olschlager. His last name has entirely too many letters in it, and he's a pastor up in Lake Orion, Michigan.
Josh is still yet to spell it correctly once.
That's because my keyboard doesn't have all of those letters on it. There are letters in your name that aren't on a standard keyboard. It's not my fault.
Yeah, whose fault is that, Microsoft? I know you're listening.
If we're going to start complaining to Microsoft about their problems, that is not the top of my list. And none of this is what we're here to talk about today. Today is, believe it or not, the season finale of season 8 of Cross-Checking. We've been talking about Lutheran identity and these different pieces that make up what it means to be Lutheran, at least in our experience and from our perspective. And we're hoping to close it off with a good one, although some of the last seasons, the season finale ended up being a dud. So,
I mean,
we'll see.
A couple things before we get started, Josh. One, because this is the season finale, and because we both happen to have stuff going on the days that we normally record next week, there will be no podcast episode. I'm guessing this is coming out next Tuesday as Josh and I are recording this, and then the following Tuesday there will be no episode.
Correct.
Cool.
Oh,
so just be aware of that.
I can already hear the weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yeah.
'Tis music to my ears.
Preemptive. Second thing, if you have a podcast episode or season topics that you want to see done, drop those in the comments, because you never know, we might just include it, or we might just throw it out and use none of your topic ideas because they all stink. And we think we know better than you. We really don't, but we think we know better than you.
Oh,
yeah.
We're gonna get some sassy comments.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to all of your sassy comments.
It's gonna be a great time. Ian's last comment, I don't even remember what he was giving points for, but he gave 156.73 points. No. Too many points, and it's a decimal. That's 2 strikes. I'm not recording that. Speaking of which,
oh yeah, scoreboard update. This is a season finale, so this is your final scoreboard. Just to break the tension here,
Benjamin has 54 points. Jesus is he is on top still with infinity, and then Ben has 54 points. Derpy has 69 points. My brother Caleb has 10 points that he got just for being a dentist. And I had 99 points, so get wrecked. I won the game of imaginary points that are totally arbitrary in a game that doesn't matter. Woo!
So what I'm hearing is Caleb won because the last shall be first.
You know what? That's very biblical of you. That's very biblical of you.
Thank you.
I do feel like Jesus gets to win either way.
Yes, he does. He does.
We can't loophole Jesus out of a win, but as far as people we could give a trophy belt to that doesn't exist, but listeners, you're welcome to have one made.
Caleb.
It would go either to me or to my very confused brother Caleb, who again does not listen to this podcast. I'm just gonna show up at his house, no explanation, hand him a trophy belt.
We love that for you, Caleb. But
That would
our
be a
actual
time.
topic for today, circling back, is the last
We've been giving
of
an
the
example
solas.
of it this whole time. What do you mean?
That's a good point. It's a good point. Our leaderboard, our scoreboard, is a good example of this. It's the last of the solas, and the one that I think most often gets kind of overlooked because there's really 5, but we often say there's 3, and people really focus on faith alone a lot and Christ alone a lot. So sometimes they even might think there's only 2, but this is the 5th one, and that is to God alone be the glory. So our goal today is to talk about how in Lutheranism that is a goal of the things that we do and the way that we act. And maybe along the way also talk a little bit about how we're not so good at that because as Lutherans we can be jerks too. We're not too proud to admit that.
Well, we're not.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere particular you want to start, or?
Yeah, I think I'd love to start with in love bashing on some of our theological neighbors. And I say that to say, like, I think we used this phrase a few weeks ago on the podcast. But I remember somebody once describing the way that new ideas form in the world as a what did they call it? A tyranny of the living. Right? The majority of human history has believed certain things about the way that the world works, like the fact that there is a God and the fact that our current culture is going far more godless and secular, not as a like I'm not saying godless as a like it's antithetical to God. In a lot of ways it is, but just in the fact that faith is being removed from people's kind of primary decision making on things. And that leads us to place God much lower down the pole in a lot of places, and for a lot of churches I think that has kind of accidentally followed in the way that their practice and their theology shape out. Thinking specifically of like the ELCA, another church body that calls itself Lutheran, but I think the orthodoxy that you'll find there is much more a like social activism and justice kind of orthodoxy than one focused around a good understanding and a true understanding of who God is. And like you'll get the opposite of that in like the opposite side of the ideological spectrum of that in some conservative church bodies, including the LCMS. But I think it's far more prevalent in a lot of our theologically liberal brothers and sisters. But yeah, start there. What do you think, Josh? Is that a trend that you've noticed?
Yes, but I speaking of the tyranny of the living, I wonder if I don't know if it's a new thing. Because while this is one particular form of it, like we have been trying to redirect credit toward ourselves for a very long time and trying to make like what we do and the focus. I mean, honestly, like that. If you look at every other world religion ever, other than Christianity, other than Orthodox Christianity, not Orthodox as in Eastern Orthodox, Orthodox as in true right Christianity. All of it depends on what do you do, and I think that manifests in glory hogging, for a lack of a better way to put it. So
Yeah.
I think it's harder to refute, I guess, in a more secularized society because there's less of a reason not to do it. In I mean, the reality is, if you and kind of take the theology part out of it, not that you can ever really take theology out of it, but we are we even in the church we encourage a lot of self aggrandizement.
Mm.
Like, you tell kids to promote themselves, and if they're on a team, well, talk to the coach, point out what you've been like. We have this tendency even within the church, um to point to the things we do and kind of, we wouldn't phrase it this way, but justify ourselves.
Hmm. I
So
remember one of our seminary professors, and this is kind of thinking small scale on this same kind of issue, telling a story during class of an interaction he had with a wealthy member of his congregation. It was like the wealthiest guy in the town that he was serving, and historically had basically given nothing to the church. Um, he would drop like a $10 bill in the offering plate on the way out the church. This was 30, 40 years ago, so that's probably like a $50 bill now. But still, for this guy, drop in the bucket. And, our professor sat him down, said, this is kind of betraying where your heart is at, that you think so little of the church and the mission of God, more specifically, to not put your money where your heart needs to be. And so the next guy, or the guy took it, I think, in the right way, kind of. Next week, guy shows up to church, drops a check in the offering plate for like, I can't remember if the professor gave an exact amount, but it was like $100 or something. So step in the right direction, but still drop in the bucket compared to like this guy's annual income and net worth. And like made sure the pastor saw it and asked him about it and was like, "Hey, what did you think?" And the pastor was like, "It's not the point. It's not the point. The point is not for you to make, like, for me to make you feel good about doing something that you should be doing anyway. And this is still nothing. Like, you've given God you've sacrificed nothing."
well, and
So
there are two issues there. The one is it's a drop in the bucket. But
yeah,
the other issue is I think more directly on our topic, and that is if you're doing something so that someone else can see it.
yeah,
That's you're not explicitly saying glorify me instead of glorify God, but that is what you are accomplishing. And this is
yeah,
something Jesus covers in his ministry. He says, if you're giving, don't let your right hand see what your left hand is doing.
yeah.
So,
And I think that's entirely what was happening in this case, is that this guy, he wanted to feel like he was doing something that mattered. He wanted to feel like he was worthy of glory and praise.
yeah.
And
And those, well, and it might be worth pausing for a second because those are two different things. To want to feel like you're doing something or to want to feel like you're doing good is one thing. To want to be worthy of glory and praise is another. Right? Because if you are I'm not speaking for Ben here. Like me, I have a tendency toward insecurity. Maybe that's not the right word. Maybe just bad self-esteem. And probably depends on the day, honestly. But if in the absence of feedback, I will assume the negative. Like if no one tells me otherwise, I am going to assume I am not doing enough or I'm not doing well enough. So sometimes I seek out those voices, and it's, at least I hope, I think, as much as introspection as this is, it's not because I'm seeking out glory and praise. I just want to make sure I'm not doing a terrible job.
Yeah, you want feedback.
It's call it feedback, call it affirmation, whatever. And that's a different, at least maybe this is just me shielding myself, but that's a different conversation than I want to be noticed. I want to be lifted up on a podium. And I think it's a different conversation because that makes me really uncomfortable.
Getting lifted up on a podium?
Yeah, don't like it. Don't like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think like as Christians, there's no part of us. Well, I mean, obviously there's a sinful part of us that does kind of want this, but there should be no part of us that wants to be like paraded down the streets on a leader and like to the praise and glory and adoration of our uh you know, fellow humans.
Makes me think saints that have gone before us that have statues in their honor. I bet a lot of them would not appreciate that, actually.
There's maybe some truth to that.
Probably depends on the saint.
Yeah. But
I think
I think also like some of them would appreciate that people saw truth in what they were trying to do and would appreciate that, to know that people were listening. And I think there's some of that. Like there's a fine line here between like glorifying a saint or a pastor, a leader in your church, a member of your congregation who just lives faithfully, and turning glory away from God into the person.
Yeah. Well, and just because that reminded me of this, if the pastor's name is bigger on the side of the church than the church's name, that's probably not a good sign. Gonna leave that there. We're just gonna drop that on the floor and walk away from it. But I think this conversation invites the question, and hopefully this can be helpful for you guys listening. How do we glorify God, and what are ways that we steal credit from Him? And and you can add or take away or correct or whatever, Ben, but where this conversation has led me so far is that maybe the best way to glorify God and to make sure credit is going to God is just to step out of the way. Like it's less, it's not crying from the rooftops, look at what God is doing, although that can sometimes be a good thing. But I think it's a lot of the times just stepping away from the light ourselves, like doing what is good and not drawing extra attention to it. And if someone draws attention to it, deflecting and saying, wow, it's cool, the Holy Spirit is working that way. It's and I'm not perfect with it, but it's something on vicarage I kind of struggled with, because you know the line in the receiving line after church, good sermon, good. Like it's almost like saying I'm fine when someone asks you how you're doing. But I struggled on vicarage, like how should I respond to this? Because saying thank you seemed like I was taking more credit than I should. And what I landed on was glad the Spirit is working, or glad the Spirit was working. And that's one of my favorite deflections. And that's something, no matter what you're doing, like when you receive compliments, it can be a little cumbersome. And especially if you're in like a secular setting, it can be a little weird, but to say something along the lines of, I'm thankful that God has gifted me in this way, or I'm thankful God is working through me like this. That can be a really good way to not deny the comment, but to redirect the attention, redirect the glory God's way. But I think more often than not, it doesn't necessarily need words. It just, you're not drawing attention to yourself. Because like I think of athletes, and when they're getting interviewed after games and they say all glory to God, and they have their, chain hanging around their neck that costs more than my annual salary. I'm like, I'm not saying that this is disingenuous, but it feels a little disingenuous. Like, I'm not sure I think you're saying this because you think it's something you're supposed to say. Because there's not the humility that would come alongside that kind of comment. So what do you think, Ben? How do we glorify God versus steal his credit versus like what?
So I
Give
think
us a game plan, Ben.
I think one of the uniquely challenging things for anyone who's trying to help somebody grow in faith or
Oh, Ben cut out. His mic has been acting a fool on and off. So,
we're back.
Is it the angle of the cord? Your light is red. I don't think your light is supposed to be red. No. Welcome to Troubleshooting with Josh and Ben. A brief commercial interlude to cross-checking where we battle with technology problems not live on the air. We're recording this, but everybody listening to this knows I'm not going to go back and edit it out.
Are we back? We're back.
Yes, with some weird robot noises, but that's okay.
That was my phone buzzing, and it's because I'm now on the crappy mic on my laptop rather than the nice podcast mic in front of me.
But we can hear Ben, and that's what really matters.
Anyway, so the thing that I was saying before Satan so rudely interrupted me due to technological issues, I think for people who are trying to lead others in faith, this can be an especially big challenge because you want to be standing like close enough. Okay, I'm thinking of this as like you're trying to look at something in front of you. So say like you're in a museum and you're a tour guide and you've got a tour group with you. You need to stand close enough to the thing that you can point out what's going on and you can help draw their attention to the right place. But you also need to stand enough out of the way that people can actually see what's going on. And that's the delicate balance that you often have to work with. And like people appreciate when you do a good job of that. People appreciate when you do a good job of leading them. But I think oftentimes that's where the risk comes in of like people are thankful that you lead them to the glory of God. And it starts to look a lot like you're getting the glory yourself.
Yeah. So it's a fine, and here's the thing: your heart can be in the right place, and you can be doing all the right things, but someone might look at what you're and still get the wrong read, and that's a good place for us to just remind everyone that what we're called to do as part of the 8th commandment is to put the best possible construction on things for our neighbors. So
and I think there are people who, especially in our evangelical brothers and sisters, there's a lot of kind of cult of personality built around like pastors and worship groups and that kind of thing. And I think there's a lot of people who lead in those kinds of churches that are incredibly faithful Christians that know their Bible really well. Obviously, like if they're not Lutheran, we're going to have some theological differences, but that's not the point here. But I think like at the same time, while they're doing that, they can accidentally lean into some glory stealing. I don't know if you want to call it that.
I mean, I'm okay with calling it that.
So turning from here, I kind of want to like talk about how this plays out in the Lutheran Church. Like, what is it that we try to do to prevent ourselves being glory thieves?
I think it plays out two different and pretty divergent ways.
Okay.
The first is, I think, the nature of our call, like how we deal with leaders in the church, and our heritage for how we do worship, especially. And so that's how I think we deal with it. But I also think it manifests in a very different way, in that we have this ethos of to God alone be the glory, and I think it drives us to excellence. Like, I think there's a lot in the Lutheran Church that is not content with just being okay. So, to kind of deal with the first things first, the way our call process works is you do not promote yourself. You don't really you don't apply for calls. It's almost a very impersonal process. Like a church, how it's supposed to be done, and it's not always how it is done, but how it's supposed to be done. A church kind of does a little bit of a self-study, and this is what we want in a pastor, or they'll kind of put something together. This is what we want in a DCE or a music minister or whatever else. And it goes to the district, who runs that through a system, and it spits out names that match those qualifications. And that from there they'll read kind of the resume and they'll interview the guys. But the result of all that is, from the start, you're trying not to focus on the personalities themselves, on the whatever that comes along with them. So I think that's part of it. But then once you get into a lot of ministry, we don't do big and flashy. And we just kind of taking a worship service, for example, what we try to do is make sure that every part of it glorifies God or points to God. So, for example, in a traditional Lutheran service, the liturgy is very structured. So it's not, oh, how eloquent the pastor is. It's, these are the words we use. So kind of through standardization, it's, you might have a pastor who's a very good preacher, but that's kind of as much of the flavor you get in it. And even traditionally in most Lutheran churches, the musicians are either out of view of the congregation. So like for ours, the choir loft is up, kind of up on a balcony, and you can't see, or at very least they're over to one side or another. So we try not to put like these people who are sharing their gifts musically or however else with the congregation. We try not to say this is a central thing. We put it off to the side as a reminder that the altar, this representation of God with us, is the central thing. So even kind of how we structure our space strives to kind of to make sure there's not the church is not being built around a person. The church is being built around God and faithful teachings about him. Now, that doesn't always work, because the reality, if you have an all-star pastor, maybe your pastor is a phenomenal preacher, like there are going to be people who start to come to the church because your pastor is a phenomenal preacher. And in that way, that segment of the church is being built around this personality, this person, the preacher, because he's a good preacher. And you don't want to tell that guy what be worse. You don't want to say,
phone it in for a few sermons and we'll see how this goes.
Huh?
Phone it in for a few sermons, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, we need you to take it down. You're preaching at like a 9, a 10. We need you to be preaching solid 7s all the way through. Like, you don't want to do that, because the word is being proclaimed well. That's just an instance where you need pastors with the humility to redirect that glory redirect the attention. And I'm actually interested to hear what Ben thinks. I had a conversation with the guy who, at one point, who was kind of very, very into famous preachers. Like, he would go and listen to various, guys that make the headlines, whatever, and when they would guest preach at different big churches. And I was like, if you get to the point where like the congregation is really starting in the Lutheran church, at least, where the congregation is starting to idolize their pastor, that might be a sign for the pastor to go to the district president and say, I think it might be time for me to move on. Because it is not acceptable for the church to be built around a person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this in other contexts, in other episodes, and I think in other seasons, where like the church cannot linchpin on a single person, even a pastor. None of us are Jesus, and none of us are irreplaceable. You can find somebody else to lead word and sacrament. You can find, somebody else to run the kitchen. You can find somebody else to lead Sunday school. You can find somebody else to serve on a church council or on a board of elders or on a stewardship committee or whatever you got. There shouldn't come a time where a person preaching is a draw in the same way that like a concert is. I remember seeing, I think it was last year. Maybe it was even this year. Southern Baptist Convention had a one of their national like business meetings recently where they were up the street from one of the larger SBC churches in the United States, and there was a whole lot of hoopla on the internet, the old interwebs, because
Old interwebs.
the pastor's receiving line had rules, like a sign with rules about how long you're able to meet with the pastor. And first blush, that looks pretty awful.
Yeah.
Like,
it reminds me of I don't know if you've seen him, the little YouTube video. I think the guy's name is Taylor Ransom. He does like sketches about mega churches especially, and he has Samson's church security. He's like, senior global pastors on the move.
Yeah.
He's in the lobby. He didn't clear this. We got to get him out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. Then there's
That's what comes to mind for me when I hear there's rules for meeting with the pastor.
The church Karen who is there with her tambourine and
yes.
Yeah. Those are hilarious videos. Double check. I'm pretty sure you're right on the guy's name, but those are hilarious for anyone that wants to watch those. But it turned out that it was just like this guy knew that, I think he was an author as well, so like he knew that there would probably be a large number of people who were there for the convention who would want to come to that church on Sunday morning and would likely want to try.
It is Taylor Ransom. He has merch.
Nice.
For Daddy's House Church.
That's right.
I swear to any of my listeners from this, if you come in here in a Daddy's House shirt, my vengeance will be hilarious.
Swift and brutal.
I don't know. No, it might be a slow burn because I'm gonna have to get creative depending on who it is. It may involve at least 10 of our kids at the church and silly string. It might. Just don't do it.
Perhaps some plastic lawn flamingos.
I could see there's promise there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it turned out that it was just like the guy knew that he would be overrun and he wouldn't actually get a chance to connect with the people he needed to from his church if he just like kept his usual rules about the receiving line and stuff after church, and like ended up being a perfectly reasonable thing, but it appeared very much not that way. And the reason that I think people reacted so strongly to it was that there are pastors in the United States that operate that way. And that should never be the case. I'm cool with you driving to a church 2 minutes further away than another one because one had an opportunity for your kids to grow that the other one didn't, or because like one actually did community and the other one was so unhealthy that there's no way that you on your own could fix it. Like we talked about this in previous seasons too. But you should not be driving past your local churches because you think a preacher is better. So if you pass another Lutheran church on your way to church,
there are good reasons and not good reasons to do that.
Yeah. Don't let the reason be because the pastor's sermons are better. I will remove you from membership. I actually don't have the power to do that, which is part of how we keep our pastors in check, but
yeah, not really. And I was like, also that's, I mean, I guess they could tell you, but if you're anything like me, my response would be like, I don't think that's probably the reason. I think you might just be telling me that.
There's also some truth to that.
Anyway. And yeah. The other kind of direction I think this manifests is there's a drive for excellence, and that's we just, especially when we're acting as a church, our actions are going to be connected to God, and we want to make sure we are doing them well.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want to do worship well. We want to preach well as much as we can. We want our facilities to look as nice as possible. While being good stewards of what we have. We want our websites to look competent. We want to put our best foot forward because we know we're going to be associated with God. And I think that's fair.
Yeah.
That's something it bleeds over a little into our personal lives. I say that just because there are a lot of really successful Lutherans, and it's because they're driven for excellence. Driven to excellence?
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole lot of factors that I think bleed into some of the things around our identity that lead us to want to pursue doing things well. And some of it's theological, some of it is our desire to not, self-aggrandize or self-glorify. But I think some of it is also just related to the fact that, in order to be Lutheran and, care about the fact that you're Lutheran, you've probably put in a good amount of work. And you recognize how hard it is to, just start to scrape the surface of understanding who God is. And then you start to dig deeper and you realize how hard it is to know more and to understand the depth that Scripture has. And if you want to be a pastor or a deaconess or a DCE or anything like that, you keep digging in your theology as you seek to lead people, and you keep realizing how many layers of difficulty there is in doing all of these things. And if there's something worth doing like this, that's as complicated as it is, you might as well do it well.
Might as well. I mean,
might as well. Yeah. I mean,
why not, right?
If you're going to do something hard, you kind of have to commit. You can't half-heartedly train for a marathon. You'll just collapse at mile 10.
I saw your brain going through. Wait, can't say it that way. I have to rephrase.
Thank you. Yeah, I knew there was another phrase out there. You can't half-heartedly train for a marathon. You just collapse halfway. Like,
Unless you're Barney Stinson.
there's some truth to that. You like, if you want to play professional sports, Josh, did you have that dream as a kid?
No. I was well aware of my own limitations as a kid.
Okay. I fully wanted to play professional baseball. Was never anywhere near good enough.
That might have been another part of it. Is my sport was tennis, and you gotta be real good, because you know how many people in the world get to play professional tennis? It's like 100, maybe.
Yeah. Point being, like, I had lots of other things I was trying to do as a kid. I did not fully commit to being a professional baseball player. I did not play past 8th grade, 9th grade.
I was about to say, and you will note, Ben is not a professional baseball player.
I'm not. Yeah, we have seminary friends who have gotten far closer than we did, and even they will say I was nowhere close. But when it comes to, like, leading God's people, I want to put in the effort there. I know Josh feels the same way.
I do. Yeah. We do our best.
One other thing for this, and I think some of this might be inspired by, church history and the people whose footsteps we follow in as theologians, people who think deeply about God. I think there's some level of, like, a lot of the greatest theological revelations have happened when people are at their lowest. Like, I look at Augustine, who was kind of at his wit's end and was like, there's nothing in this world. Oh, but there's Jesus. Or Luther, who was, like, fully prepared to die in the middle of a thunderstorm, and he's like, but there's Jesus. Or Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was, like, surrounded by Nazis. He's like, oh, but there's Jesus. And we get these beautiful pictures of, like, what it means to follow our God, and to follow in Jesus' footsteps, and to live like him. Is like, these were not people who were seeking out glory at that point. They were, a sex addict who, this is Augustine, a sex addict who needed to shape up, figured out a lot about how God operates in life with sinners. You have Luther, who probably was clinically depressed.
Probably.
And yet wrote some incredibly beautiful things about the depth of the love of God. Like, I think there's something to that too. We point back at these people and go, yeah, they had something figured out. I want to do what they did. Yeah. Yep. Well, Josh, you said earlier that a lot of our season finale episodes tend to fall on their face. In this case,
hopefully this was an excellent one.
Yeah. Well, my microphone tried to make that happen again, but
Darn would you believe that both of us worked in IT?
Yeah.
For years.
I literally, I had already turned off my computer and turned it back on again.
He
today.
did. I didn't see him plug it in and unplug it and plug it back in again. So
This happened multiple times, Josh. I promise you.
in any case, we hope that this season has been helpful for you. We also hope that this episode has been helpful for you. And just a reminder, we said this at the beginning of the show. We will be taking a week off just because of that's how the schedule's playing out. And also it's a break in the seasons. And then we'll be starting season 9. I can't believe we're still doing this. I don't know if we're insane or if you are for listening to us.
Isn't the definition
but if you have
of
anything that you're like,
the
I
same
wish
thing over and over again and expecting a different result?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
We're not doing the same thing though. We have new mics.
You have a
Kind
new
of.
mic. Mine, I have one. It doesn't seem to be working.
In any case, if you have suggestions for topics for season 9, whether that's a book of the Bible you want us to go through, or kind of a general topic where you want us to deal with specific questions within that topic, or whatever else, if you want us to go through episodes of a TV show or a movie and I don't know, commentary on that. Heck, if you want us to Twitch stream and I can wreck Ben at some Call of Duty, I don't know, whatever your dreams are, put them in the comments and
that would be so bad.
We will sort the wheat from the chaff. With all that being said, thank you for joining us for season 8 of Cross-Checking. Brothers and sisters, go in peace. Serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Thank you for listening in to this episode of Cross-Checking, a ministry of Hope and Good Shepherd Lutheran churches, where we strive to deepen your understanding of the faith and help apply it to daily life. If this podcast is helpful to you, rate the podcast, subscribe to us on your favorite platform, and share it with others who might also gain something from it.